Okay, everybody. Well, welcome to our Italian workshop. We will be recording this Zoom session, so please mute yourself and turn off your camera if you'd like. This recorded posting will be posted to our Go Global Rome Center brochure page. So that'll be under the tab Passport and Visa Requirements. So you can use this recording as a great resource for you when you're working through this process. Not only will you have this recording, but you'll have access to ask questions to myself and to my other team members. The presentation for today is scheduled to go until 5:15-ish. So just be aware of that. And then at the end of the presentation, we will have time to answer any questions you might have. So if you just kind of hold off until then, at the end, we'll be able to move forward and answer any questions or concerns that you might have about the student visa process. So we're going to move this along to our team. I would like to introduce our team. Myself, I am Alana Carroll. I am the Study Abroad Coordinator for the Rome Center. I predominantly work with the accepted students that have deposited, and I help you through all the post-acceptance materials. So when you have questions such as this, the visa process and such, I'm your point person for it. I'd like to also introduce two of our other team members that you might be familiar with. They are our assistant directors for enrollment management, and that is Adam Schilling and Abby Linneman. They, as I say, may have looked familiar to you because you might have met with them previously when you were first interested in the Rome Center program, or you may have worked with them on the actual application process. So, again, the three of us are here to help you in any capacity that we need to get you to Rome. And so I'd like to point out on the screen here, we have our different emails. And again, you'll have access. I'll send out this slide deck and the recording as well. So there's hyperlinks within each of these slides as well. So our email, our contact information's here. We are all on Navigate. So if you need to make an appointment with us, you can most certainly schedule an appointment with Navigate. If you are a visiting student, you will not have access to Navigate. So just reach out to us via email, and we're happy to find a date and time to kind of Zoom with you to go over any questions you might have with the student visa process. The other three items at the bottom of this slide I like to point out is just the general Rome at luc.edu account. You can send questions there if you're not comfortable sending it individually to us, or as I say, you can send it to one of us at our individual accounts. The other two links that I like to point out are websites. These are going to be a great source for you with information about the Rome Center. So there's luc.edu/Rome. You're going to get a lot of information on there. In addition to that, there's the Go Global portal where you did your application. There are various tabs on that top banner that has lots of helpful information for you. So make sure that you are visiting any and all of those sites. This is a great opportunity just to remind everybody about a passport. You need to have a passport in order to obtain a visa. So if you do not currently have a passport that will be valid for at least 6 months past the end date of your program, begin that passport renewal or registration. Or if your passport's about to expire, make sure that you are in the process of renewing that. Um, so we have the website here. If you have to apply for a new or renewed passport, you can go to travel.state.gov and start that process. So in regards to student visas, I always like to say that this process is very time sensitive. So you need to make sure that you are reviewing this process, making the necessary appointments with the appropriate consulates or consulate, gathering your documents, filling out your forms and asking for help from our team should you need it. I actually encourage it. I want to see you. Make those appointments. Reach out to me via email because I want to help you in this process as much as possible. I also like to point out when I'm in these sessions that the consulates do not process things in a rushed manner, and that Loyola is not able to intervene on your behalf with the consulates. This is with the Italian government, and they run on their own schedule. So be mindful, as I say, to this being time sensitive and being aware of what you need to do and when. So, student visas. Students without a valid Italian or European Union passport will need to acquire a student visa for the fall 2025 semester. So unless if you are an EU citizen or an Italian citizen and you have valid passports that are again 6 months past the end date of the program, you do not need a visa. But if you do not fall into that category, you will need to obtain a student visa. And so that's why the bulk of you do fall in that category, and that's why we're going through this process. Um, if you do have an EU passport or an Italian passport, make sure that you upload that to your Go Global and that you put it in the passport requirements section. And then I always say to just send an email out to us letting us know that you are going to be using that EU or Italian passport. That way, we are not bugging you with additional email requirements in regards to obtaining that student visa because you won't need to do that if you fall into that category. If you hold citizenship in a non-EU country other than the USA, please reach out to Rome at luc.edu and we can assist you further. Sometimes it varies by country and there's little niche requirements. So just reach out to us and we'll help you walk you through that process. So, in regards to the student visa appointments and locations, the first step in this process is securing a visa appointment. We highlighted the importance of this in the communication email that was sent out to you after you made a deposit for the program. That email that was sent out was titled Rome Center Next Steps to Apply for Your Visa. So, if you want, you can always go back to that email that was sent out, and there's hyperlinks within there and information. You're going to also have this video to go through and the slides, and then of course you're going to have our team members to help you through that process. Um, we are also in this presentation, we are going to provide you links also to that software system to make those appointments so that you're aware. One of the things I like to highlight here, and this is new, is beginning January 2025, all visa applicants need to appear in person for an interview and for the collection of the biometric data, which is taking 10 fingerprints and a photograph. Those are collected from the person applying for the visa. So this is a new requirement. So don't listen to your friends that went a semester ago or a year ago and they say, oh, I did this, I did that. It's kind of null and void. Some of it's applicable, yes, but just be aware that all of you are going to have to secure that in-person appointment and go to that with one of the consulate generals of Italy. The other thing that I like to tell students is that all the students, whether you're Loyola or a visiting student, you all are eligible to use the Consulate General of Italy in Chicago. That's the one we're very familiar with. So again, all of you are able to use the Consulate General of Italy in Chicago. However, some of you may be lucky enough to have multiple options. And when I talk about that, it varies. It'll depend on where you live, so where your home state is, or the region to the school that you go to. So for all Loyola students, you have access, you have the jurisdiction to the Chicago one. For example, but let's say you're a Loyola student that lives in Massachusetts. You would have the option to go to the Chicago one because your home school is in the Chicago jurisdiction. But if you live in Massachusetts, you have the option to go to the Boston consulate. So you have two options. Another situation is if you are a visiting student from another institution, let's say like Xavier University, you live in Massachusetts, you have a couple different options. Because Xavier University is in Ohio and the jurisdiction for that falls under Detroit, you could utilize the Detroit consulate. But because you also live in Massachusetts, you could utilize that Boston consulate. And because you are going on that Loyola program, you could utilize that Chicago consulate. So, again, you may be lucky enough to have three options. You may only get one option. It does vary. And so, below here, because there's those possibilities, I have a link to the consulates and their jurisdictions. So you can click on that link and you can see which jurisdiction, if you live out of state, where you may also be able to apply for that in-person appointment. So with the study visa appointment system, I always say this is where it's going to get a little careful, where you need to be a bit more careful. You want to book an in-person appointment now using that Prenotus website, that software system, and I'll walk you through all those steps in the next few slides. And then where I say I want you to be careful is its timing. If you do not live in the Chicago area, but you are wanting to use the Chicago consulate, be aware that if you book an appointment with the Chicago consulate over the summer months, that's going to require you to travel back to Chicago. So you want to be cognizant of where you're booking and the dates, because that's going to affect your travel, over those summer months. Um, and at that interview, you will be providing the consulate your application and your required documentation as well. Just as a reminder for the Loyola students, your finals will end on Saturday, May 3rd. So if you're planning on moving out May 4th and you know you're going across country back home to California or something like that, it might not be the best idea to have an appointment in the Chicago consulate over the summer months. Unless you are willing to travel here. So again, just be cognizant when you're booking these appointments where you want to be and looking at those dates and which consulate you want to use based on your access for your jurisdictions. Scheduling your appointment. This is the platform that we keep talking about for booking visa appointments. It's called Prenote at Me. So here is the hyperlink to that website. If you have not already created an account, you need to do that. So they call it a register/create an account. With that, you'll have to provide some personal information like your first name, last name, email, things like that. So be aware, nothing too detailed. You'll have to create a password, things like that. Once you've registered and created an account, you then have access. And so you can start looking and booking an in-person appointment at the consulate that you choose, that you have jurisdiction to. I also like to point out that these appointments must be no earlier than 180 days and no later than 30 days before the start of the program. So that window for you all starts March 1st. That's the earliest date that you can make an appointment, and it goes all the way up to July 27th because your program start date is August 27th. So that is the time window that you have to schedule those in-person appointments. I always say try to do those much earlier because if there's any errors or complications with the student visa, you want to have a little bit of a buffer. Also, if you are having a difficult time, let's say you are a Loyola student and you are from Illinois, therefore you can only use the Chicago consulate. If you are having troubles finding an appointment, that's why we're telling you now because there's lots of them open on the Chicago consulate page right now. And I can't speak on behalf of the other consulates, but I'm sure there's a good amount. But if you're having difficulties finding an available appointment, go on to that Prenota software system at midnight Rome time, which is about 5 o'clock our time, and look for those new available appointments. They're reposted at that time. So at midnight time in Rome, um, If someone has canceled, they drop those and they repost whatever new ones are there. The other thing that I note here is that you can only have one Prenota at Me reservation account with one consulate. So you would have to delete one account if you were lucky enough to have access, you have jurisdiction to two of them, and you're trying to do the Chicago one, and you decide you want to now switch to the Detroit because you're from that area, then you have to delete the account for Chicago and create one for Detroit. And again, if you have questions, please reach out. I am happy to help you. As of right now, the consulate, because they made that new change where everyone has to come in person, they've opened up more appointments for students. Previously, it only used to be like 3 days out of the week. They've now opened it up Monday through Friday in the mornings with multiple time slots. So they are trying to be accommodating in providing additional appointments for students. Let's scroll here. So this is now, I'm going to kind of walk you through some visuals. Students get a little nervous when they go into the software system for making the appointment. So I thought it'd be helpful to just kind of go over what this looks like and the steps that you need to do. So to register your account, you'd go on the hyperlink that we provided for that pre-note at Me. And when you're on there, you're going to select what's called register your account. So it's this button down here. And as I mentioned earlier, you're going to answer some questions. And so those questions are going to be some of that personal information and passwords. You're also at that point going to designate which consulate you want to use. There's a drop-down menu. There's multiple consulates. So and it's for all over the world. So you want to make sure that you are going to the United States of America and then Chicago Consulate or the United States of America, Boston or United States, LA. So it's way down at the bottom of that drop down. Students get a little nervous because they kind of type in Chicago and they think they're going to find it. You've got to scroll down all the way towards the bottom. So make sure that you're doing that and that you're selecting the consulate that you think is going to work best for you based on where you have jurisdiction. Once you have access to Prenota, you've registered, you have created your account. Now you have access to Prenota. And so you're going to plug in your email and your password, and you're going to select the button that says forward. It's going to pull you into their main page here. When you're at this main page in the upper right-hand corner, there is a language. It says Italian or English. Unless you are fluent in Italian, which maybe some of you are and you can read it, that's fantastic. It defaults to Italian. If you're not, make sure you're clicking on English. I get a lot of phone calls, students saying, I don't know, I don't speak Italian yet, I can't read it. So I have to direct them and say there's a little option at the top to select English. Make sure you do that. So then it'll pop up. Once you're on that page, you want to select book, and that's going to take you to the what type of services you're going to need. And so you're going to see a bunch of things here. So I wanted to highlight that for you. And so you want to select here Visa and then select book. Not any of these other documents. They're not applicable to you, just the top one, which is Visa. And so when you select that and you hit book, it's going to take you to this appointment page. You want to select individual booking. Make sure you mark off that privacy policy. If you don't, it won't let you go forward. So make sure you check off this box and then hit the button forward. Once you've done that, it will take you to the calendar for that specific consulate. So this is the one for Chicago. You'll see here, Chicago, and it shows you a calendar. I want you to be aware that there's a key down here. So it shows you that the green colored dates have availability. The red, they're already booked up, and such. And then blue is the day that you've selected. So I was looking at March and for my example here, and I selected the 26th, so it highlighted it in blue. It originally was in green. And then it popped up on the right-hand side here, all of the available time slots and how many are available for those time slots. So they have 3 appointments available from that 9:30 to 9:45 slots. It's about a 15-minute appointment. I decided I wanted the 11 o'clock, 11 to 11:15. So I selected that and then I hit book. So I just want to make sure you all are able to see that and understand what that looks like. When I selected that book, so I selected my date, I selected the time, I hit book, this is what came up. So it provided me with which consulate I was using, what I was going to be, the services provided, a booking code, a type, the date that I selected. In this example, I kind of switched. This says May 2nd. So forgive me, it doesn't say March 26th, but in my other one, I had done May 2nd, and then the time, which I had selected at that for my example, 10 o'clock. One of the things I want to show you here is this part where it talks about attention. So this shows you that you have selected a booking appointment. And so they've kind of are holding it for you. It's not a confirmation. So when I say it's not a confirmation, you have to go back per the instructions here, 10 to 3 days before your booking date to confirm it. And so it's kind of holding it right now, and then 10 to 3 days prior to your appointment, you have to go back into this Prenota system and confirm the appointment. And so you will receive an email as well. So not only does this come up on your screen, you can see the appointment details that you selected, but you'll also receive an email that will tell you this is your appointment details. Um, some students get a little nervous even though they see it on the screen and they get the email, they still get a little nervous. They're like, are you sure I have that appointment? You can go back to the home page on Prenota, look, select My Appointments, and you will see it will pop up here. So it'll say your date and time, but as you can see here, the status says to be confirmed. And right now, because it's way too early, this appointment is scheduled for May 2nd, it's not 10 to 3 days prior, so it says cancel operation. Just leave it alone, and like I said, in that 10 to 3 days prior to your appointment, it will change to confirm, and you want to select that button, and that button will confirm your appointment. If you do not do that, your appointment will get canceled. So I tell students, put it on your phone, put it on a calendar, or set an alarm, whatever you need to do to be looking to go back into this system 10 to 3 days prior to your appointment date to confirm your appointment. So that's talking about how to schedule the appointments, and we want you to do that now. We want you to secure. You're going to say, well, I don't have all my documents. Just kind of start thinking through, okay, I have to be March 1st to July 27th. Just go in there and select a date that works for you, that's within your jurisdiction, and just get it booked as quickly as you can because these will fill up. So next we want to talk about the documents that you need to apply for the student visa. Um, the basic documents are the same for all the Italian consulates in the United States. However, some consulates may require additional documents or have varied requirements. So I tell students always check the website for the Italian consulate through which you are applying for a complete list. So if you're using the LA consulate, make sure that you are looking on their website for the requirements that you need. Once you have all your various documents assembled, you're going to bring them into your in-person appointment that you've already scheduled, and then prepare them before the end of the school year. I'm going to talk a little bit later about some visa workshops that we're offering. This is an opportunity for you to bring or all of the documents, and we'll walk you through that process. That's why we're offering those 3 different times through the month of February, so you get familiar with what you need to do. We'll help you fill out the application. We'll help you make copies, things like that. So we want to make sure that you have these all prepared appropriately and that you have everything. And especially because you are falling into those summer months, I recommend that, you prepare them before the end of the school year because once you're out the door, it's a little bit harder. Not that we can't do it via Zoom, but, just make sure that you are doing that early enough. And then I always tell students, part of this process for the documents is that the consulates do take your passport. So make sure that you are, I want to make sure that you're aware that you cannot travel internationally while you're going through this process because you won't have your passport. Or if you are planning on traveling internationally in the summer, then you want to make sure that you're doing this process early enough so that you get that passport back before you do any international traveling. So just be aware of that. So the student's responsibility. This is where we talk about all the things that you need to gather for that appointment. Flights, that's a big one. You need to start looking at flights like now. You need to purchase, if you are a fall semester student, you need to purchase a round trip flight to Italy as soon as possible and upload those flight details and itinerary to your Go Global portal. Submitting that information, that flight itinerary information into your Go Global allows our office to generate what's called the acceptance and insurance letters. These are necessary for your student visa application, and that comes out of our office, but we can't do that until you book your flights. So start looking at that. I know some students' finances, it's a little dicey. They think if they wait a little longer, some of those flight prices will go down, but you're pushing things down the road. So I always encourage students to look at those flights now and make your purchase. We also say book flights that are changeable or refundable should your plans change. There could be a simple date change or something else. So just make sure, you can look at the Expedia and the other websites, but just be aware of whatever additional costs you might incur if you have to change your plans or change your flight. So just be aware of that. And then students always ask, well, I want to book my flight, but I don't know when I need to arrive. You want to be looking at the Rome Center academic calendar, and I have that hyperlinked here, and that will guide you with the arrival and departure dates. So if your arrival, the program starts on August 27th, most students will fly out of the United States on August 26th so that they arrive at some point during the day on the 27th. And again, if you have particular questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to talk to you about that before you hit the button to buy. Um, I can help a little bit with that in guiding you. So we're now going to kind of get into the study visa document checklist. I'm kind of breaking it down into two slides here because there's a lot of details with each. So I want to make sure that I'm taking the time to go over all of these appropriately with you. So the first thing that you're going to start working on is the visa application. You're going to print and fill the visa application form for long-term stay, which is 91 to 365 days. Um, we have hyperlinks to where it's located on the Chicago Consulate. We have a blank template. We have a filled out template for you. So we'll provide some guidance on how to fill that visa application form out. In addition to that, like I mentioned, we have those workshops in February. It's a great opportunity to come. We'll print out blank pages for you. You can use it, make mistakes, whatever you need to. We'll have those available to you. So make sure, whoops, make sure. Oh no, what happened to my slides? Let's see. Something happened here. Oops, let's go here. There we go. Let's go back. There we go. Thank you for your patience. So we'll go through that with you. In addition to that, you need to provide a passport size photo attached to the visa application. You can obtain those passport size photos at a CVS, a Walgreens, but the campus card here on the Lakeshore campus in the Sullivan Center is available to take those photos, and they're $10 and you get two of them. And they're a nice quality. So I would recommend that going there. In addition to that, you are going to, as I mentioned earlier, provide them your physical passport plus one copy of your passport. So that copy should include the photo and the signature page. And so you want to make sure that you're making copies. Again, during our workshops, we'll make copies of your passport if you have it. So bring it with you to those workshops and we'll do it for you. For non-US citizens, foreign passport original and one copy as well. And if you have a permanent resident card, the original and a copy of that permanent residence card. There's more details on the Chicago Consulate page if you need it. In addition to that, you need to produce a copy, not the original, but a copy of your driver's license or state ID. This determines eligibility to apply for a visa at a particular consulate. Now, some of you may say I'm from Massachusetts, and so I have a Massachusetts driver's license, but I go to school at Loyola. That's okay. Make a copy of that Massachusetts driver's license or state ID, but I would also recommend making a copy of your Loyola ID. So that way, not only do we have the acceptance letters that are on Loyola letterhead, which shows you have access or that you have the ability to go to the Chicago consulate, but I think it's also nice to provide them a copy of that school ID if need be. And then, as I mentioned, the study abroad insurance letter and acceptance letter. Again, that's organized through our office, but only after the flight itinerary information and upload is completed within your Go Global. What we do is once you've done that, it sends an email to me, to our office, and so we produce those letters. So we typically have about 5 business days to produce those letters. And when they're ready, we'll send you an email indicating that they are ready for pickup. So for all the Loyola students, we'll tell you that, we'll send you the email saying that your acceptance letter and your insurance letter is ready for pickup. Please come to our office Monday through Friday with our hours, bring some form of identification, and you can pick it up. If you are a visiting student, we will mail those out to you, but you have to provide, and one of the requirements in your Go Global application is an address. So make sure that you're filling that out as to where you would like those letters to be sent. If for some reason by May, if you have not uploaded a flight, which I hope is not the case, but if you have not, and now you're leaving to go home and all of a sudden you decide, oh, I've got my flight now and I'm uploading it. Again, the same requirement is in the Go Global. It's regarding where you would like it's a shipping address. Please fill that out. So even if you are a Loyola student, still fill it out just in case you fall into that situation where you haven't uploaded it and now you're departing for the summer and we need to get it to you. The next items with the student visa document checklist is proof of financial means. This can be a bit of a daunting one for some students. They get a little nervous about this. Essentially, what this says is that the Italian government needs to know that you have financial means or access to financial funds for the duration of time that you're in Italy. So they set up a calculation, which is $1,000 per each month of stay. So for those semester-long students, we indicate that it should be 4,500. So there are a couple different ways to show that you have proof of those finances. If you have that in your bank account as a student, that's fantastic. That's the most easiest, concise way to do it. And so what they ask is that you provide them copies of 3 most recent bank statements. So if your appointment is in May, you would produce to them, print out your April, your March, and your February bank statements. Now, your April bank statement would be considered the most recent bank statement because you're going in May. That should have the 4,500. The previous two don't have to have the 4,500, but they do need to see the history. So that's why they ask for 3 recent bank statements. Some students may not have the funds, and so they rely on their parents or guardians to assist them in getting that amount. There's a couple different options for that. Either the parents or guardians can transfer the funds into the student's bank account, and then in that situation, just to depending upon timing, you may want to just provide a letter from a U.S. bank institution on the bank's letterhead signed by a bank official with a recent date indicating the account balance. That might be an easier way to do that. Um, some parents or legal guardians do not want to transfer funds into their student's bank account and they want it to come out of their own parental or guardian bank account, and that's fine. Um, but they then would have to produce the three most recent bank statements from the parent or guardian's bank account. In addition to that, they would have to do an affidavit of support, and that has to be notarized by a notary public. So there's two kind of elements involved in the proof of financial means should it be coming out of a parent or legal guardian's account. So be aware of that. Some students may have financial aid, and so therefore they're heavily relying on that as their support, their proof of financial means for that semester. If that's the case, then you most certainly need to reach out to LU FinAid at luc.edu, and they will let them know that you're studying abroad for the fall semester at the Rome Center, and they will produce an award letter that you can supply in your collection of documents here as your proof of finances. So if anyone has any questions about this, again, just reach out to me and I'm happy to kind of clarify it. But there's kind of three different ways to provide that proof of financial means. The next item is that confirmed flight in and out of Italy. As I mentioned, you will need to print out that full itinerary for the consulate as well. If you are a year-long student, you can present a one-way ticket together with proof of the available funds for the purchase of a return ticket. So with that, kind of circling back to that proof of financial means, if you are a year-long student, you're going to double that amount, that 4,500. So that gets you to 9,000. And then you have to show, in addition to that, that you have an additional access to funds to get a return ticket. So I always tell my year-long students, you need to have $10,000 as your proof of financial means. So be aware of that. The next item is that the Chicago consulate accepts, they don't do the processing of the student visa for free. They have a fee for that. And so they only accept money orders. And that's not a personal check. It's not a credit card. It's not Venmo, Zelle, things like that. You have to produce what's called a money order. And a money order is essentially, it's guaranteed funds. So you can get a money order from a bank. You can get a money order from a post office. So those are different areas where you can obtain a money order. And so there is a counselor fee that's associated for processing and looking over all your documents. That counselor fee can vary. So we have here for the Chicago one, a link to their counselor fee. I always tell students organize all your documents first and then get your money order at the end, right before you're about to go in for your in-person appointment. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at that counselor fee. It is a chart, it's a table. It is only in Italian. So we want to make sure that you are aware of that fee, and it's the very last item, the Visto Nazionale per motivo di studio. And so that will have an amount, and that's what you'll need to get that money order in. And you pay for that with American money, US dollars. So you will include that in your packet of documents, the money order. And then this item here is a return envelope. So if you are going for an in-person, you all are going for in-person appointments, Usually, and I recommend that students go back when the student visa is ready and pick it up in person. That's the fastest, easiest way to do it. However, some students, especially during the summer months, you might be going away, something like that. If that's the case, after you've had your in-person appointment and you know that it's potentially 3, 4 weeks out from processing when it'll be ready for pickup and you're not going to be in town, then you will need to provide the consulate a return envelope for your passport and for a letter that they'll send back to you. That has to be prepaid, it has to be self-addressed, and it has to be trackable. So the consulate dictates that the mailing label should have to and from, and both must contain your name and address. And so we indicate that it should be trackable so that exactly what it states. You have the ability to go on to that carrier service, whether it's FedEx or UPS, and plug in that tracking number to see when it's en route back to you. Do not use the United States Postal Service for this. There's been many passports that have been stolen. So not only does our office recommend that you use FedEx or UPS, but also the consulate as well. So be aware of that. If you are going to have that passport mailed back to you with your student visa, make sure that you include in your packet this consent to send by mail form. That is basically a form that indicates that the consulate is not responsible should your passport be lost or stolen. So they won't even look at all these documents unless this is here if you're planning on having it mailed back to you. Again, there's a lot of information, so if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me, set up that appointment, come to our visa workshops. This is the money order. I always like to kind of give a visual so that students can see that. This is from a post office, so you can see the United States Postal Service, and this is what a money order looks like. So it's a paper, it looks like a check, and you have to fill it out, and you would provide that. Just make sure that when you fill that out, you are filling it out with the Consulate General of Italy in whatever city that you're using. So if you're using the consulate in Boston, you would put Consulate General of Italy in Boston. If you're using Chicago, put in Chicago. Make sure you write your name, home address, phone number, all that information. Do not alter the money order. If you make a mistake, do not put whiteout on it. It will render it unacceptable. So the Consulate General of Italy in Chicago, I always like to provide the address. So here is the address. I also like to provide links to their study visa points. Everything that we talked about as far as the document collection, you can see that here at the study visa points. Also, this is the link to the counselor fee tab that I mentioned. And then this is the link to the contact. So should you have any questions after you've gone through your in-person appointment and now you're waiting and you need to get a hold of them, there's information here for you as well. Helpful documents. As I mentioned, there's a template that we have pre-populated the answers to. So you'll want to make sure that you go to this link and go to the Go Global Rome brochure page under the Passport and Visa tab, and you'll see that down at the bottom. There's also that blank affidavit of support that I mentioned. If your parents or guardians are going to be supplying their financial information, in addition to that, they have to do that affidavit of support. So there's a blank document here. If you are going to be having your passport with your student visa returned to you via a carrier service, you want to make sure that you do that consent to send by mail. And then any financial aid questions should be addressed to lufinaid@luc.edu. So with the visa application and document review, I am available. Lots of students come to see me. They collect their documents and say, "Can you take another look at this? Make sure I have everything correct." That's great. Make sure that you utilize me. I am a resource for you. Set up those Navigate appointments. If you are a visiting student, reach out to me. We'll set up a mutual agreed upon date and time to Zoom to go over stuff. I'm also in the Sullivan Center on the second floor. So if it's a quick question and you're in the building, I may or may not be at my desk, but if I am and I'm available, I'll try to answer the question for you. So be aware of that. I do prefer, having an appointment set up, but like I say, if I'm available and it's a quick question, we can do it that way. Or I'll tell you this is going to take a little bit longer, set up a Navigate appointment. Let's see what we can do. This is the application workshops that I mentioned earlier and throughout the presentation. We're going to have those drop-in sessions. They're going to be held at our office here in the Sullivan Center, Suite 206. And so we will have them on Wednesday, February 5th from 12 to 2. Monday, February 10th from 2 to 4, and Thursday, February 27th from 9 to 11. If that works out, any of those dates, I would highly encourage you to bring your documents. Even if you don't have everything ready, we can help guide you through that process and just kind of help answer those questions that you might be concerned about. So with that being said, I'm going to stop recording and then we can talk about any questions that you might have. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. Looks like we have some in the chat. Let's see. Um, Thanks for coming. All right. Anybody have questions?